the drugs, and then I really got in bad shape. I got down to about 105 pounds, they said, and I looked terrible. I looked awful. I sung terrible.
Old country music is filled with beloved legends and timeless songs. But for every fan favorite, there were stars who stirred anger and division. Whether it was feuds, arrogance, or betrayals, these artists left a trail of resentment that never faded. Here are 20 of the most hated artists in old country music history. Number 20, Billy Sherrill. Billy Sherrill's work on Tammy Wynette's Stand By Your Man and George Jones's He Stopped Loving Her Today became milestones in country music history. As one of Nashville's most sought-after producers, he pioneered the countrypolitan sound, helping artists reach the top of both country and pop charts. His career earned him a place in the Country Music Hall of Fame and the respect of many in the business. Away from the studio, he lived quietly, rarely courting fame. Fans admired his ability to transform songs into classics, though some felt uneasy about how much control he had over their favorite artists. Yet behind the acclaim, many artists saw him as a controlling presence. Sherrill often clashed with singers over creative direction, refusing to compromise on arrangements. He was known to push artists into styles they didn't feel comfortable with, believing he knew best for their careers. Critics accused him of stripping the grit out of country music, replacing it with a glossy commercial sound that appealed to pop audiences but alienated purists. His insistence on perfection, though praised by some, left others bitter, believing he cared more about marketability than authenticity. Sherrill's stubbornness made him a legend to some and a villain to others. His influence shaped the sound of a generation, but it also created enemies who believed he betrayed the heart of the music. And if Sherrill was accused of watering down the genre, KT Oslin would be accused of challenging it outright. KT Oslin's breakthrough hit 80s Ladies became a defining anthem of the late 1980s, winning her multiple Grammy Awards and solidifying her as one of country's most unique voices. Her albums topped the charts, and she was celebrated for bringing a mature, thoughtful perspective to a genre often focused on younger themes. She carved out a space for herself as both a singer and songwriter, breaking through in an era dominated by men. Offstage, she maintained a private home life but showed flashes of sharp humor in interviews. Fans respected her intelligence and confidence, often viewing her as a trailblazer for independent women. Still, her rise wasn't without friction. Oslin quickly gained a reputation for being unapologetically outspoken, which clashed with Nashville's culture of polite diplomacy. She questioned long-standing traditions about how women should present themselves in country music, dismissing outdated expectations with blunt commentary. While this earned her respect from progressive audiences, it also created resentment among conservative fans and industry gatekeepers. Stories circulated of her dismissing less established artists, adding to the perception that she was arrogant. Whether she was misunderstood or truly aloof, the criticism followed her throughout her career. Whether she was simply misunderstood or genuinely arrogant, Oslin left a mark that divided the industry. But if her sharp tongue kept her in the spotlight, the next artist thrived on outright provocation, and David Allan Coe turned that into his trademark. David Allan Coe's The Ride and You Never Even Called Me By My Name became outlaw country staples, earning him a place alongside Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings in the genre's rebellious movement. His prolific songwriting and relentless touring built him a loyal audience that admired his authenticity and refusal to conform to Nashville's rules. Coe lived a life as wild as his songs, marked by multiple marriages, stints in prison, and a reputation for living on his own terms. Fans admired his unpredictability, often describing him as someone who truly walked the walk of the outlaw image. But Coe's controversies ran far deeper than most of his peers. His underground albums contained lyrics that many deemed offensive and racially charged, sparking outrage well beyond the music community. He was notorious for starting public feuds with other country stars, openly boasting about his superiority in ways that alienated potential collaborators. Some critics argued that he relied more on shock value than genuine artistry, tarnishing his reputation even among some of his own fans. His refusal to tone down his behavior ensured constant attention, but it also solidified him as one of the most polarizing figures in the genre's history. Coe's image as the ultimate outlaw kept him in the headlines, but it also made him one of the most divisive figures in country history. And while his approach was reckless and confrontational, the next artist found a way to spark hatred without ever raising his voice. Barbara Mandrell's Sleeping Single in a Double Bed and I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool made her one of the most recognizable voices of the late 1970s and early 80s. She dominated award shows, winning the CMA Entertainer of the Year title twice, and hosted her own TV variety show that brought country music into millions of homes. Offstage, she presented herself as wholesome and family-oriented, married for decades with children. Fans appreciated her polished image and dedication to entertaining them both on stage and on screen. Yet Mandrell's success also made her a lightning rod for criticism. Traditionalists accused her of going Hollywood, blending pop arrangements with country roots in ways that some felt cheapened the genre. Industry whispers painted her as fiercely competitive to the point of being difficult to work with, insisting on control over every detail of her image and performances. Some artists claimed she had a habit of stepping on toes to maintain her position at the top. While many adored her versatility, others saw her as an overly packaged star who cared more about crossover appeal than the heart of country music. Mandrell's fame was as polished as her performances, but the resentment she stirred among purists never quite faded. And if Barbara was criticized for chasing mainstream attention, the next artist's chase for success took him far from the roots that made him famous. Kenny Rogers' The Gambler became a cultural phenomenon, and Lady topped charts far beyond the country world. His gravelly voice, storytelling songs, and crossover hits made him an international superstar, selling over 100 million records. Beyond the music, Rogers lived a high-profile life with multiple marriages and business ventures, from fast food restaurants to photography. His fans adored his charisma and generosity, often praising his kindness during meet and greets. But Rogers' move toward pop-influenced country caused a deep divide among traditional fans. Critics accused him of abandoning his roots for commercial gain, crafting songs designed to appeal to suburban radio rather than the dusty honky-tonks where he began. His frequent reinventions, while financially successful, led some to see him as a brand more than an artist. Industry insiders also noted that his perfectionism could sometimes border on arrogance, making collaborations tense. For all his charm, Rogers carried the stigma of being a country artist who left the country behind. Rogers proved that crossover success could create as many enemies as it did admirers, and if his smooth style sparked debate, the next artist's hard-edged attitude turned dislike into outright hostility. Tanya Tucker shot to fame at just 13 years old with her breakout hit Delta Dawn, and later scored with tracks like Two Sparrows in a Hurricane. She was hailed as a prodigy, earning Grammy nominations and industry acclaim before she was old enough to drive. Offstage, her personal life became nearly as famous as her music, filled with high-profile romances and a bold, unfiltered persona. Fans loved her fearlessness, seeing her as a country girl who refused to be tamed. But Tucker's wild streak made her a constant source of controversy. Her rebellious image was fueled by a partying lifestyle that often overshadowed her talent, and tabloids followed her every move. Industry insiders claimed she could be temperamental and hard to work with, canceling shows or clashing with management over creative control. Her unapologetic behavior alienated more conservative fans, who saw her as reckless and self-indulgent. The same boldness that inspired admiration also fueled resentment, making her one of the genre's most polarizing figures. Tucker's firebrand style kept her in the spotlight, for better or worse. And if her defiance split opinions, the next artist found himself hated for a different reason, not for being wild, but for being cold. Dwight Yoakam's Guitars, Cadillacs, and Fast as You brought a modern twist to the Bakersfield sound, earning him critical praise and a loyal fan base in the late 1980s and 90s. His career included multiple platinum albums, Grammy Awards, and even success as an actor in Hollywood films. Away from the spotlight, Yoakam kept his personal life guarded, fueling curiosity and mystique. Fans often described him as cool and detached, an artist who didn't pander but delivered exactly what he wanted to give. However, that coolness was often mistaken, or perceived, as arrogance. Yoakam developed a reputation for being difficult in interviews, with curt answers that rubbed reporters the wrong way. Fellow musicians sometimes complained about his unwillingness to compromise creatively, leading to strained collaborations. His habit of prioritizing his own vision over commercial expectations, drew admiration from diehards, but irritation from those who wanted him to be more approachable. To critics, he came across as aloof, distant from the very audience that made him famous. Yoakam's artistry was undeniable, but his distance left some fans feeling shut out. And if Dwight was criticized for keeping people at arm's length, the next artist was slammed for getting far too close to controversy. Johnny Paycheck's "Take This Job and Shove It" became a working man's anthem, earning him chart-topping success and a spot among the outlaw greats. His raw vocals and hard-living image made him relatable to blue-collar audiences who saw him as a voice for their struggles. Offstage, Paycheck embraced the outlaw label. Living fast and unapologetically, fans loved his no-nonsense attitude, at least at first. But that lifestyle came with a price. Paycheck's career was riddled with legal troubles, including multiple arrests and a highly publicized incident where he shot a man during an argument. His alcohol and drug abuse often led to erratic performances, no-shows, and abrupt cancellations that frustrated promoters and fans alike. Industry peers sometimes avoided working with him, fearing his unpredictable behavior. While his outlaw status gave him credibility, it also made him a cautionary tale of wasted talent and burned bridges. Paycheck's rise and fall proved that being an outlaw could be a double-edged sword, and if his troubles made him a pariah in some circles, the next artist would draw hatred not for lawlessness, but for betrayal. The Dixie Chicks dominated the late 1990s and early 2000s with hits like "Wide Open Spaces" and "Goodbye Earl," selling millions of albums and winning multiple Grammy Awards. They were praised for their harmonies, instrumental skill, and ability to blend traditional country with contemporary influences. Offstage, the trio projected a playful, relatable image that endeared them to fans worldwide. That all changed in 2003 when lead singer Natalie Maines made a political comment about President George W. Bush during a concert in London. The backlash was immediate and intense. Country radio stations boycotted their music, CDs were destroyed in public protests, and fans who once adored them turned away. The controversy became one of the most divisive moments in modern country music history. While some defended their right to free speech, others saw it as an unforgivable insult to their values. The Dixie Chicks' fall from country royalty showed how quickly public sentiment could turn, and if political statements could ignite hatred, the next artist's downfall would prove that even a legendary voice could lose favor over personal failings. Randy Travis's "Forever and Ever, Amen," and On the Other Hand, helped usher in the neo-traditionalist movement in the mid-1880s. His smooth baritone voice and clean-cut image made him one of the most beloved stars of his era. He collected multiple CMA awards and Grammys, and fans admired his humble demeanor and public devotion to his faith. Offstage, he maintained a reputation as one of country's good guys for most of his career, but that image took a sharp turn in the 2010s when Travis was arrested multiple times for incidents involving alcohol, including a notorious episode where he was found naked and intoxicated on the side of the road. Fans were stunned, struggling to reconcile the wholesome image they knew with the troubled man in the headlines. His legal troubles and health battles overshadowed his later work, leaving a bittersweet note on an otherwise stellar career. The disappointment was palpable, especially among longtime supporters who had held him to a higher standard. Travis's fall reminded the industry that even the most respected stars could stumble, and if his troubles came from personal demons, the next artist's problems would stem from a long history of making enemies. Merle Haggard's "Mama Tried" and "Okie from Muskogee" became staples of American country music, making him an icon of the working class experience. His songwriting earned him a place among the all-time greats, with a career that spanned over 5 decades. Haggard's troubled youth, including a stint in San Quentin prison, only added authenticity to his music. Fans admired his grit and saw him as a man who had lived what he sang. Yet Haggard's blunt honesty often landed him in trouble. He was known to openly criticize fellow artists, industry trends, and even audiences who didn't meet his standards. His shifting political statements over the years also alienated some fans, leaving them unsure of where he stood. And behind the scenes, he had a reputation for being stubborn and difficult to manage, unwilling to bend to the commercial pressures of Nashville. While this preserved his artistic integrity, it also created rifts with record labels and promoters. Haggard's refusal to play by the rules made him a legend and a target, And if his battles were mostly within the industry, the next artist's controversies would spill into the tabloids for decades. Loretta Lynn's Coal Miner's Daughter and You Ain't Woman Enough turned her into one of the most celebrated female artists in country music history. Her songs gave a voice to women's experiences, earning her numerous awards and a place in the Country Music Hall of Fame. Lynn's personal life, including her long and complicated marriage, became part of her public narrative, and fans admired her candor in discussing her struggles. But Lynn's outspokenness also earned her critics. She tackled controversial topics like birth control and gender roles in her songs, leading some radio stations to ban her music. She could be fiercely opinionated in interviews, sometimes dismissing other artists or industry trends she didn't approve of. While this made her a pioneer to some, it painted her as combative to others. Her tendency to speak her mind without softening her words meant she was both adored and disliked in equal measure. Lynn's fearlessness kept her relevant for decades, but it also kept her in constant conflict with critics. And if Loretta's controversies came from speaking out, the next artist's backlash came from a single moment that changed everything. Faron Young's Hello Walls and Live Fast, Love Hard, Die Young made him one of the most successful honky-tonk singers of the 1950s and 60s. He scored dozens of top 10 hits and was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Known for his charm on stage, Young kept a busy touring schedule and enjoyed a reputation as an entertainer who could light up any room. Offstage, he lived a lively social life, often hosting industry parties where fans and fellow musicians mingled. But Young's personality could quickly turn from charming to abrasive. He had a notorious temper and was involved in multiple public altercations. Stories circulated of him being verbally and physically confrontational when drinking, and he developed a reputation for making off-color remarks to female fans and colleagues. Some artists avoided working with him altogether, citing his unpredictable behavior. His struggles with depression and alcoholism were well known, and his final years were marked by personal turmoil that overshadowed his music. Young's talent was undeniable, but so was his ability to alienate people, and if his temper made him feared, the next artist's private life made him despised. Glen Campbell's Rhinestone Cowboy and Gentle on My Mind made him an international sensation, bridging country and pop like few others had before. His television variety show brought him into American homes every week, and his guitar skills were respected by musicians across genres. Campbell's clean-cut, smiling persona made him one of the most marketable stars of his time. In his personal life, he enjoyed golf, family gatherings, and connecting warmly with fans. Yet Campbell's offstage life was far from spotless. His relationships were often turbulent, including a high-profile and controversial romance with fellow singer Tanya Tucker, who was decades younger. He battled substance abuse, leading to public incidents and erratic behavior. His reputation suffered further when allegations of controlling and abusive behavior toward partners emerged in interviews and memoirs. While many fans remained loyal, others could not reconcile the friendly rhinestone cowboy image with the darker personal stories that came to light. Campbell's decline proved that even America's sweetheart could fall from grace. And if his scandals hurt his image, the next artist's behavior on stage made fans turn away in droves. Hank Williams Jr.'s Family Tradition and All My Rowdy Friends Are Coming Over Tonight made him one of country music's most recognizable voices in the 1980s and 90s. He successfully stepped out from under the shadow of his legendary father, building his own career and fan base. Offstage, he enjoyed hunting, outdoor life, and connecting with his fans through rowdy live shows. His strong personality made him a hero to those who loved his rebellious streak. But Hank Jr.'s outspoken political and social commentary often landed him in hot water. He made multiple controversial statements in interviews and during performances, alienating fans who disagreed with him. His onstage antics, fueled at times by alcohol, could cross into offensive territory, creating headlines for all the wrong reasons. Television networks and sponsors distanced themselves from him after inflammatory remarks, leading to a loss of mainstream opportunities. To critics, he became a symbol of everything divisive in modern country music. Hank Jr.'s boldness kept him in the public eye, but it also ensured he would never escape controversy. And if his mouth got him in trouble, the next artist's downfall came from actions no words could undo. Spade Cooley's Shame on You was one of the biggest Western swing hits of the 1940s, and he was known as the King of Western Swing during his career peak. He hosted a popular television show and played sold-out dances across the West. To his fans, Cooley seemed like the perfect entertainer, stylish, talented, and full of charm. Offstage, he lived lavishly, enjoying the luxuries his fame brought. Behind the glamour, Cooley's personal life was deeply troubled. In 1961, he was convicted of murdering his wife in a brutal and shocking case that stunned the music world. The details of the crime horrified fans and destroyed his public image instantly. Once admired for his music and charisma, he became a cautionary example of fame masking darkness. Even before his conviction, he was known for having a volatile temper and being difficult to work with, making enemies in the industry. Cooley's fall was total and irreversible, and if his crime ended his career instantly, the next artist's self-destruction would play out over many years in full public view. George Jones's He Stopped Loving Her Today and The Grand Tour are considered some of the greatest recordings in country history. Known as the Possum, Jones had a voice that could bring an audience to tears, and his performances left fans in awe. His career spanned decades, earning him every major award in country music. Offstage, he enjoyed storytelling, time with friends, and interacting warmly with loyal fans. But Jones's battles with alcohol and drugs became legendary, overshadowing his music. He missed so many concerts that he was nicknamed No-Show Jones, infuriating ticket buyers and promoters. His drinking led to arrests, public brawls, and erratic behavior that strained his professional relationships. While some fans forgave him, seeing his flaws as part of his charm, others grew frustrated with his unreliability and chaos. The infamous story of him riding a lawnmower to buy alcohol after his wife hid the car keys became both a joke and a sad symbol of his struggles. Jones's career was a mix of brilliance and self-destruction, and if his chaos cost him dearly, the next artist's arrogance burned bridges that could never be rebuilt. Buck Owens' Act Naturally and Together Again helped define the Bakersfield sound in the 1960s. As the frontman of the Buckaroos, he racked up hit after hit and influenced countless musicians. His role as co-host on Hee Haw made him a household name, and his upbeat demeanor drew fans in for decades. Owens enjoyed ranching, business ventures, and meeting fans, often signing autographs for hours. Yet, Owens's business dealings earned him as much criticism as his music earned him praise. He was accused by former band members of underpaying them and taking credit for their contribution. Some in the industry described him as calculating and self-serving, more focused on his personal gain than on supporting others. While he maintained a friendly public image, behind the scenes, he was known to hold grudges and cut off relationships if they no longer benefited him. For those who saw both sides, the gap between Buck Owens the entertainer and Buck Owens the businessman was wide. Owens's legacy remains tied to both his influence and his reputation for self-interest. And if Buck's critics called him selfish, the next artist's critics called him dangerous. Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues and Ring of Fire made him an icon whose influence reached far beyond country music. His rebellious image, deep voice, and powerful songwriting won him fans across generations. Offstage, Cash's humanitarian work, including prison reform advocacy, endeared him to many. Fans saw him as authentic, someone who sang from experience and conviction. But Cash's outlaw image wasn't just marketing. He struggled for years with addiction, leading to destructive behavior that damaged his health and career. His infamous 1965 arrest for smuggling amphetamines across the border tarnished his image, and incidents like setting a forest fire in California during a drug binge fueled his notoriety. While his later life was marked by redemption, some industry insiders never forgot the chaos he caused in his early years. Even some fans saw him as a man who had dangerously blurred the line between art and reality. Cash's ability to recover his career was rare, but the final artist on our list never got the same chance. Hank Williams Sr.'s Your Cheatin' Heart and I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry remain among the most iconic country songs ever recorded. His influence on the genre is immeasurable, with a career that redefined what country music could be. Williams's heartfelt lyrics and distinctive voice won him legions of fans, and his music still resonates decades after his death. Offstage, his charm and wit made him a favorite among those who met him. But Williams' life was plagued by alcoholism, drug use, and chronic health issues. His unreliability became notorious, with missed shows and uneven performances frustrating both fans and promoters. His personal relationships were often turbulent, marked by infidelity and volatility. While his talent was universally acknowledged, his behavior alienated colleagues and sometimes embarrassed those who worked with him. His death at just 29, alone in the back of a car, cemented his tragic legacy, but also left behind a cautionary tale about the cost of self-destruction. Williams remains both a towering figure in country music and a reminder of how brilliance and chaos often walk hand in hand. Controversy leaves a mark, and these artists wore theirs for life. Some faced the backlash head-on, others never recovered from it. Which one shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments, and hit subscribe to hear more untold stories from behind the curtains of country music.